Good afternoon, Sue Smith with you on this snowy Montreal afternoon, the first Monday in January. And we've got lots of news. And this is normally the time when we open up the phone lines. But we've got a couple of guests that we're going to talk about in the next couple of segments about Venezuela and what is going on. But keep your thoughts coming. The text line is just burning up. So I'm going to try to get to some of those texts. 514-790-0800. Let me know what you're thinking as the news sort of rolls out. So, of course, over the weekend, the U.S. conducted a military operation in Venezuela. They arrested people are calling him the de facto president because, of course, he was not the elected president, Nicolas Maduro. He appeared today in New York court, said no, he's not guilty of any of the charges that have been he's been charged with. But the operation has a lot of countries in the region wondering if they are next, including, of course, Canada. And we'll talk about that after the news. But Trump has stoked this fear. He said that the president of Colombia, Gustavo Petro, is a sick man who likes making cocaine and selling it to the United States. That's a quote. He likes making cocaine and selling it to the United States. And he's making kind of vague threats that Colombia could be next. Petro, in his turn, has warned that he would defend the country with arms if necessary. And that is a quote, too, which would, of course, be a dramatic and dangerous escalation between the two nations. Daniela Cifuentes Larrota is a Columbian-Montrealer. She's completing a master's in public policy at Concordia University. And right now she joins us on the line. Good afternoon, Daniela.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for coming on. So what's been going through your mind as you've been watching the ongoing story out of Venezuela?
Yeah, for sure. So I've been talking about this with my family the past days. My whole family is back in Colombia. I'm just here with my mom. And we are pretty worried about all of the intentions from President Donald Trump. We see all these empty, vague accusations that has been happening since the intervention in Venezuela. My family is pretty divided on the subject, and I would say that most people in Latin America are as well. We can see that there's a lot of Venezuelans that are celebrating. They're celebrating, and they're saying that Venezuela is free, that democracy is coming, and we don't really know. We don't have any clues that, that is going to be the case. If you see the different interviews that they've been airing, no one knows who is going to govern Venezuela. We know that Trump said that he is going to be the one taking all the oil reserves and basically selling it to China and Russia, probably for, more expensive. But we can say that I don't think Trump is really interested in implementing democracy in Venezuela. And for sure, there's a lot of Colombian people that are, I don't know how to find the words, but it's a really complicated feeling.
Yeah.
It's a feeling of, okay, there's a dictatorship that, just fall because it's been really hurting us in Latin America. There's a lot of immigrants. Venezuelan immigrants that been basically relocating throughout countries from Latin America.
Yeah, 8 million apparently. 8 million
yes.
Venezuelans have left Venezuela. Yeah.
Yes, and Colombia is the first country that we've been impacted by this immigration influx, and it's worrisome because we're not closing our borders anytime soon.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, the economic and all of the economic resources from Colombia, we see that we also had a really good economic relationship with Venezuela since Gustavo Petro is from, the right wing. So there's a lot of people that don't really know what our future will hold, right. And it's really impacting for us, saying on the news that he is basically threatening our democratic elected president.
So tell me a little bit about your president and how things are working in Colombia. So I have to tell you, I was in Colombia last year, 2024 in December. And, a lot of people were so happy that, tourism is up and people are traveling there again because for so many years, Colombia was closed off, of course, during the Escobar years. But Trump says that your president is a narco, is selling drugs. So what is the state of democracy in Colombia?
Yeah, for sure. This is an amazing question. And I would say that mostly when people haven't really been to Latin America, they would have this, maybe I would say stereotype still from the 80s
Yeah.
about the Pablo Escobar era and that we still make drugs. And I would say it's a little bit more complicated than that. Traveling to Colombia, it's not dangerous. Of course, if you don't go to the war zone or close to the border in the Amazon where, there's guerrillas that are
Yeah.
present.
But in
Um,
Panama, between Panama and Colombia.
yeah, between
Hmm.
Panama, Colombia, and between Ecuador, and also we have the border with Brazil.
Right.
But I would say that it's honestly, if you go to any city, I've met a lot of Canadian of my friends, a lot of like people around me here in Canada that are from Canada, and other countries, European countries. They've been to Colombia and nothing has ever happened to them. So it's definitely a shift that we don't have that many problems with drugs as we had in the 80s for sure, because our president, he's not a narco. He doesn't make cocaine in a laboratory. But of course there's still issues in certain specific zones of the country where it happens, and when there's drug trafficking, as well as in Mexico and other countries of Latin America.
Yeah.
So
But
yeah.
just sorry, you did mention that Colombians are concerned about the economic fallout. And was I right in hearing you say that the Colombian president and Maduro were quite close, economically?
I mean, I would not say close economically, but for sure, if the United States is taking ownership of the petroleum, I would not be surprised if they would sell us petroleum for, more expensive than Maduro was selling us petroleum.
Mm-hmm. We know that a lot of Venezuelans are happy to be rid of Maduro, to your point, and you said, your own family is conflicted, yay, he's gone, but what's going to happen? How much support does your president have in Colombia? I don't even know if that's something you can answer, but would you say the majority of Colombians support where the country's headed?
Well, something really important that has a lot of, a lot of heavy burden is that we have our presidential elections this year. So our presidential election is going to be in May, and our Congress election is going to be in March. This is going to totally shift maybe the political environment and how, you need to know about Colombia that this is the first time that we get a left-wing president in the country, because we've had this history of us being afraid of becoming a dictatorship or a communist country, just as Cuba, Venezuela, and other places. There's always been this worry about us going that way. So this is the first time that we actually have a leftist president in Colombia. I would say that in general, it's going to shift the political environment from the presidential election for sure. I don't know if it's going to benefit more the right wing or the center. Mm-hmm. But it's going to be effectively a concern.
So what would you say your biggest concern is going forward after watching what's been unfolding in Venezuela?
My biggest concern is I do think that Latin American countries need to be united. I think that there's a lot of presidents in Latin America that are right-wing and that are going to be supporting Trump. So I really don't want to think that my family is going to live through bombardings or something similar to what happened in Venezuela. Yeah. My grandparents are there, my whole family, my cousins, my uncles, and I don't really want them to go through that. And I think that every Colombian and every person in Latin America, Trump could just decide one day to take out democratic elective governments. And I think that's a really, really big concern, because today it could be Venezuela, tomorrow it could be Colombia, and then he could just keep on going. He's also made these comments about Mexico and how, the cartels run the country. So this could definitely be a bigger problem if the Security Council or the United Nations doesn't actually do anything about it.
Daniela, super interesting talking to you. Thank you so much for joining us today. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much and have a great day.
You too. That's Daniela Cifuentes Larrota. She is from Colombia. She lives here in Montreal. She's completing a master's in public policy at Concordia University, kind of giving us the perspective from Colombia, because Trump has threatened Colombia, Trump has threatened Greenland, and as we know in the past, Trump has threatened Canada. We are, in his mind, the 51st state, should be at least. We're going to talk about that coming up after the news. Right now, here is your CTV News Update with Jason Mayoff.
Introducing Bryan Adams Radio on iHeartRadio. Hosted by Bryan Adams himself.
Join me for an insider look on a wild ride through 40 years of global rock and roll.
Bryan Adams Radio. Now available on the free iHeartRadio app. Or ask your smart speaker to play Bryan Adams Radio on iHeartRadio.
Who's ready to rock?
Kids wanna rock.